Are you great at looking at the bigger picture, but not so much in breaking it down? Then today's guest might be the connection you need to make.
Welcome to Fox Talks Business Podcast with your host, Tanya Fox. Tanya has been an entrepreneur for over 20 years, owning retail, service, and franchise. She holds no punches and is never afraid to talk about the nitty-gritty. Together, you'll explore the good, the bad, and the motivational of business life, turning obstacles into opportunities and failures into successes. So grab your favorite drink and let's have some fun. Here's your host, speaker, crafter, and collaborator, Tanya Fox.
Amanda Lopes Bregoli is the owner of Refocus On Being, providing growth solutions for the heart and soul of your business. Through her coaching and business consulting work, she takes the guesswork and fear out of growing your business so you can grow and scale with confidence, put yourself first, and love your life again. She focuses on creating a business that supports your life and thrives off of being able to use her expertise and knowledge to provide life-changing, highly personalized support to all of her clients. She is the mom of 10-year-old boy and girl twins. When she got tired of the life and energy drain of being in the corporate sales and business development for over 17 years, she made the plunge to leave that world and has now been running her own successful home-based business for the past 5 years. So thank you so much for coming on the show today, Amanda.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
So for those listeners who don't know about you, tell us a little bit about your journey up until this point.
Okay, so my name is Amanda. I am a corporate life business person who specialized in sales and business development, who decided not to do that anymore and created my own business from home. Went through a few iterations of really figuring out what my business would be, and started out in one field and completely turned to another. But the bottom line of everything that I have done has been to create the freedom of schedule, of time, of being able to really do what I like to do, because I have 2 young kids and I really, really want to focus on being a present parent. It became really apparent when I was getting text messages of their firsts and what they were doing. And I was like, I want to be there for that. And the life that I've created has allowed me to be there for that. And it's pretty rare that I miss anything now. And I'm able to really do the work that I want to be doing and impact other people's lives. And I found that it's been really inspirational to other women who also want to be able to be home with their kids and to create the freedom of time and schedule. And I do tend to work with a lot of moms who are either stay at home or want to return to being back at home, that kind of thing.
And I can totally relate to that, because I remember when I had my son, I think I had the idea in my head that I was going to just stop doing everything and just be a mom. And I was fortunate that he was a really good baby, so he didn't really need a lot of care. And then I was so bored. So I needed to change the dynamic of my work so that I could still do it at home. But like you said, that I was still being present. I wasn't just, leaving him to his own devices. And I think that that's true for a lot of people, because like you said, that's what you want to do. I mean, that's why we have kids, right? Is to be able to experience those monumental moments in their life. So what changed for you, like when you decided to change the dynamic of how you were doing your business, to be able to do it at home and to be able to offer yourself that freedom? What was one of the obstacles that you came across in trying to fit everything all in?
Definitely like time management. Like, how do you fit everything in? Because you only have so many hours in a day. And I was really determined to be spending as much time with them as possible, but also really conscious of the fact that I was trying to grow a business at the same time. So it took So I have twins. So I will say when you have twins, you kind of get thrown into time management right from birth, whether you like it or not, because
Right.
you're balancing two babies and you're, how do I feed and diaper and clothe and take care of myself? So luckily I had a pretty good structure in place and really just worked to come up with a time system, a time management system that worked for me, that allowed me to have concentrated work time. And I was lucky that I had twins because two of them could most of the time occupy each other. There is a boy and a girl, so sometimes they love each other, sometimes they can't even be in the same room. So
Right.
sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But they were able to help occupy each other. And the time management system that I came up with really actually taught them how to be self-sufficient and be respectful of my boundaries and my container of work. And then they knew when the timer went off that it was like, oh, it was mom time, and now they got their time. But time management was definitely the biggest thing. Like, how the heck do you fit growing a family and growing a business and trying to take care of yourself all into like this, big pocket of time? Because when you leave the corporate world and you're so structured in an office, right?
Yeah.
You know what you're doing every second of the day. And then you get home and you're like, oh, I have 8 or 9 or 10 hours. What do I do with all this time? And half the time you end up like not knowing what to do with it. So there was a definite learning curve and learning process in there. But with my background in systems and business development, I was able to really, come up with a system that worked then when they were 5 years old and still works now. Like when they're home, we still do the same system for work and play, so that they still get time with me.
And so tell us a little bit more about that system that you use. Like, is it just like setting the timers, or like what other, because I think that's really helpful for a lot of people, because we feel like we need to always be with them 24/7. And I was always a big component of parents of I only have the one, but to let him sort of play by himself as well. Right. And sort of realizing to let go of that guilt of being like, I have to be with him all the time, every minute.
Yes, mom guilt is huge no matter what we're doing. But when they were little, it really was setting a timer. And one of the reasons that I did that is we kept them out of school for a year. We didn't put them into kindergarten at 5 because that was when I quit my job. So I was like, no, it was selfish. I was like, I want them home for the year.
Right.
And
I'm finally here now.
I know now I get to not miss things for at least a year. But I knew that it was also gonna teach them a few things, how to kind of tell time and count down and be able to really work at becoming self-sufficient and saying like, oh, do I need mom? Well, there's still time on the timer. So I actually used a big like analog timer that I used to turn. And when they were 5 years old, I used to I just call it work blocks. It's like an extended Pomodoro method. If you've heard the Pomodoro method,
Yep.
where you set a timer for like a super short amount of time, 2, 5, maybe 10 minutes at the most. But when they were 5, I found that like doing half an hour to 45 minutes of work was about all that they could handle before they were bursting at the seams to either have a snack or to go outside or to do anything like that. And then we would set the timer again, and they would get whatever amount of time I had worked, they would get, or even possibly a little bit more if it was lunchtime. But it really helped them to develop the healthy habit of respecting my boundaries and of knowing what was going on and knowing when it was mom's work time and knowing when it was their time. And over time, I didn't really have to set those timers. I would just look at the clock and say, okay, and mom's working until this time. And they were able to tell time that way.
And I think that's great, being able to encompass, some learning into that, like you said, of getting them to understand respecting your time, but also learning how to tell time, of being excited about the fact that, it's shared time, like mom has to work, but then we get her for that time. And I think that's a good way of doing it too, because it builds the excitement. Otherwise it's just like, mom's always here. Right? As they do enough.
Right.
My son's 13 now. So now it's just like, mom's here. She's always here.
So I have that to look forward to.
It's not too bad, but it's that double-edged sword, right? Like I raised him to be very independent, and he always was. Like as a baby, he was like, he would amuse himself very easily. And I'm like that. So he very much has that personality. but it's just grown more as an adult. So that's what I wanted, right? That's what every parent wants, is for your children to grow up and be independent. But then there's also that part where it's like, he doesn't ask for a lot. So I have to force him. I'm like, can you come and spend some time with me? Because he doesn't mind being alone. He's like, I'm good. I'll amuse myself. Like, so
That's awesome though.
yeah, it's good. It's good. It's just
Yeah.
sometimes you're like, geesh, maybe be a little less independent. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about the work that you do and the workshops that you offer.
Sure. So, what my business has developed into now is I have really found my place among providing support services in a few different ways, and I'll kind of break down the different types of people that I work with. But overall, I tend to work with big picture type thinkers, creatives, visionaries, the business owners who have these amazing big visions. They know what they want for their life. They know what they want for their business. Um, some of them are not working with clients yet, and then some of them are. But a lot of big picture thinkers have a lot of trouble breaking things down into the small pieces and creating the step-by-step systems and processes that they can replicate and then reuse over and over again in their business. And so many of them just they lack the understanding of how to do that, or it's just not their thing and they don't enjoy doing it. I'm a really detail oriented person, so I love that I'm able to sit down with business owners who are so creative and take what they want to do or what they are doing and help them break that down into teeny tiny steps and processes. And what it does is it really connects them to the power of the details in their business, and it helps them see what systems will they eventually need to help them automate and not do so much hands-on work in their business, and what kind of team are they going to need to bring in to delegate to help them grow their business. And I work with a few different tiers of people. So one main part of my business is that I train women who are interested in becoming virtual assistants and creating their own home business. So that's where they don't have their business running yet comes in. And I work with virtual assistants right from the birth or before the birth of their business, right up to, moving into, multi 6-7 figure clients that they support. And then I also support business owners who need consulting services so that they know what kind of team to bring on so that they can understand what they need for automation systems.
And that's changed a lot. Do you find, like, even over, like, I use virtual assistants a lot because I just find so much value in them. But how do you see how much that has changed? Because I remember when I first started my business, that didn't exist. Like, you hired staff. That's where it was. So how do you find that the changes, both good and bad? Because there's always good and bad to both.
Of course. And my journey, my work from home journey actually started as a virtual assistant. I did some blogging at first, quickly found out that that was not easily monetizable and wasn't going to be able to do what I wanted to do with it. And I started seeing the need to support bloggers in their growth. And that was my first step. I didn't even know what a virtual assistant was. And that was my first step into that world. And I would say even over the course of 5 years, what I've seen and what I'm really also trying to lead the charge on is that changing the mindset from virtual assistants of just being people that you outsource work to, that you hand off the things that you don't like, to people who are really truly partners in your business, who see your plans, who are invested in your growth, and who are doing everything in their power to represent your business and to hold you in whatever way, whatever their role and position happens to be, so that they're actually thought of as like an indispensable, I couldn't grow my business without you type of person.
And I think that that's key, for building your team, because I think that's important no matter what type of business you have. And I know, like, my virtual assistant now is on my staff because I just took her. I was like, I don't want you working with anybody else because I love the work that you do. And just over the years, we worked so well together. So I think that that's something, that definitely I see happening a lot is people, it's sort of a way to test the waters with a person a little bit easier than hiring them and, that. the 3-month period and stuff like that. But so what are some of the areas you find that virtual assistants get used the most, or that businesses can use them the most? Because I think a lot of people think, well, that's not for me. Like, how am I going to be able to use that?
Exactly. And the interesting thing is that virtual assistants can support, as you know, almost any aspect of your business. It really comes down to what you do. Most of the virtual assistants that work with me in my programs are specialists of some sort. And where we're seeing a really big need right now are client care support specialists. So the people who are corresponding with and lovingly holding your clients through the entire process of potential client right through hopefully continuously working with you for years and years and ever and ever. And systems and organization experts. So the VAs who can come in and, like me, help you see what the big picture is and break it down into steps and processes so that you can start identifying automation systems so that you're not constantly doing in your business. There are a lot of, in my circle, people who are looking for support when it comes to tech, because a lot of business owners are now branching out and doing podcasts, and they're doing different things like that. So they definitely need the tech help, and it requires a certain mindset to be able to do any kind of technical or website work or podcast support or anything like that. But those are really like the three biggest areas in my circle and what we're seeing right now with virtual assisting. But they can support any part of, and I would also say actually social media, because everything is on social media now.
Yeah.
And I don't know one business owner who has the time to manage their social media platforms. So having people who really understand each individual platform to come in and support them so that they can, reach their target markets and really start to inspire people and bring them into working with them is also really, really big.
Yeah. And it's quite freeing too. Like, I found the more I started using virtual assistants, the more I realized that giving up stuff was easy. Because as a business owner, especially when you start something, it's like having a child. Like, you just grip onto it with everything, and you just feel like you have to do everything. You have to have your hands in everything. And I know, like, for myself, once I realized that I could relinquish some of the duties and how freeing that was, because someone else loved to do it, right? So I was able to go, here's the stuff that I have to do in my business for it to work, like my filing or some of my data entry or whatever, but I don't really enjoy doing it. It was great to find somebody who was like, oh, I love doing that. And I'm like, then you do it and enjoy it and be happy with it. And it allowed me to free up time that I could concentrate on different areas. And I don't know if you would agree with this, but I think for me, that is the biggest thing that business owners need to realize, is that by getting rid of some of those tasks that you don't enjoy doing, it frees you open to be able to look at bigger pictures. And, when you get to that, to be able to grow your business, because you're not concentrating on the everyday things that sometimes take you away from being able to visualize that.
1000%. Everything that you just said. But I want to acknowledge for everyone who's listening and watching, it's super hard to let go.
For sure.
It is super hard because, like you said, our businesses are our babies, but you get to the point where you will stall your growth. You will not be able to bring more clients in. You will not be able to support the clients that you have or the customers, whatever it is that you do. You won't be able to create the products that you create if you're doing every single thing in your business. And the great thing about this life is, like, I'm great at certain things. You're great at certain things. Use other people's expertise, because that's what we're here for. So when we start looking at it more as like growing our businesses through collaboration and partnerships, it makes it easier to make that decision to let go. And it also opens you up to so much growth.
Yeah. And I will admit, I was the worst person. I'm surprised that mine stayed with me as long as she did, but I was very honest with her. I said, look, this is going to be really hard for me. I'm a little bit of a control freak when it comes to my businesses, but now, it's easier for me to go, I don't have time to do this anymore. I need to find someone else who could. So, but it's such, it's not a new thing. Virtual assistants have been around for a little while, but it's still a new concept to a lot of people. So when someone is out looking for that, what are some of the tips you can give them to pay attention to? Because there's so much out there that I think people can find it hard to, like, where do they even start?
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that I do when I talk to people when they're getting ready to look for the right support to come in so that they can grow their business is to really pay more attention to the fit and the kind of person that they need, the personality. Skills and abilities can be taught. I'm completely self-taught when it comes to all of the virtual assistant duties that I have provided to my clients. I had a lot of business background, but I had never actually been a virtual support person. But every single one of my clients who brought me on because they knew that my personality and my dedication and my kind of offbeat, dark sense of humor matched with theirs. Like, they knew what they wanted in a person and their business. And that is super, super important. There's so many people who, when they're out there starting to look for their virtual assistants, that, they have their laundry list of, like, you have to be able to use A, B, C, and D. And they're not asking them the questions about, asking them the hard questions, on an interview, coming up with a question. If this happened with one of my clients, how would you respond? And really listening for what's their behavior, what's their way of thinking, how empowered do they want to be in my business. When I bring team members on, that is my biggest thing, is they have to be the type of person who embrace being empowered and really want to learn how to make decisions for themselves and be the position that they are in my business.
Yeah. And I think that that's true, because really, depending what you're getting them to do, but especially for social media, they're essentially your voice. So if you find somebody who doesn't have, and I've done that, I've been there, had somebody who didn't have my same personality, and it reeked through because people could see, right? Like, this person, why your posts are very straight edge, like they're very prim and proper, and that's not you. And I realized, yeah, because I hired a prim and proper person. I probably shouldn't have done that. So I think, yeah, I love that tip. So tell us a little bit more about, you have a workshop, how to break down the big picture without having a breakdown. So tell us a little bit about this workshop and how people can find it and what type of people this would apply for.
Sure. So this is a workshop that I do off and on as a live workshop, and it gets so filled and goes over so well that I've now made it a recorded one that people can gain access to. And it's for anybody who owns their own business and still has their hands in creating their systems and processes, or the business owner that maybe doesn't have their hands really in it, but really wants to understand how to step-by-step break down things in their business. And I also have a lot of virtual assistants who come in and will take this workshop, because it's really helpful for them to learn even more, if they're not already doing it, how to be able to take something that their client gives them, an overall process, a skeletal kind of outline of something, and to be able to break it down into pieces, to identify who's responsible for what step, and to learn how to really make things easy to follow, easy to replicate, and get their own business or their client's business to the point that, should someone in a role not be able to do that role, that the documentation and the standards of practices are so crystal clear that almost anybody could walk right in and be able to, with a little bit of time, step right into those shoes. So the workshop is an overview of why it's so important to be able to break things down. And I walk everyone through multiple examples of, how to set up like a client care process, how to really set up a standard of practice within someone's business, those SOPs that you always hear people talking about, and so many people do not have yet in their businesses. And it's It's a really fun, in-depth with examples. I provide PDFs and documentation that show people exactly what to do and give them a great framework upon which to base their own work.
And I think that's such a key thing for businesses to have, like, because I know there's so many owner operators out there that if something happens to them that, I've heard it, even myself, that people will say, well, it's okay, my husband will help. And I'm like, really? Can your husband actually say what it is that you do? Because I know mine can't. He does not know what I do. So it was something that I learned, that I was like, I need to get something down so he knows where everything is. Because if something happens to me, he knows nothing. Like, he's going to be like, I don't know. I don't even know her password to get into anything. But I think that that's key for a business. And ideally, you want to have that so you can walk away, because people forget that. We just think we're opening a business, we're going to work at it. They don't think of being able to walk away from it. And I don't mean walk away as in like sell the business, but even just to be able to have time to have the business running and not be working 24/7 behind the counter. But like you said, you need to have that where somebody can come in and sort of pick a binder off the shelf and go, oh, here's all the steps that I need to do, A, B, and C. I think that's wonderful. But I think this workshop is fantastic, because then, but how do you do that, right? I think that's the hard thing. So you're saying that the workshop takes them step by step how to do that. So then they have that document that they can then build off of.
Yes, because breaking things down into details is not an innate skill that everybody has. And that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But especially if if you own your own business, or if you are supporting somebody else in their business, if it's not a skill that comes to you naturally, it is a skill that you should learn. And anytime that you can learn a skill from somebody who it does come naturally to, it gives yourself a leg up on everything. But I love what you said too about, just being able to take time off, because there have been more times than not that I've been able to have someone step in for me when I was in a client care role within someone else's business, and to be able to have a temp come in so that I could do my annual 2-week vacation with my family, and know that somebody else was going to be able to just pop right in and stand in my shoes with no problems whatsoever. So it gives the business owner freedom, which most of us are working from home so that we can have freedom. And so many people get stuck working more from home than they were in the office. So
yeah. Absolutely. So tell us where people can go to find more about you, your company, and your workshop. Where's the best place for them to discover more about this? Because I think this is something that a lot of businesses need to start paying attention to.
Oh, thank you. So I do have a website. My business name is Refocus On Being, and that is the website. So it's www.refocusonbeing.com. I am going slowly through a rebrand this year, so the business name will be changing. However, everything is accessible the way that it is now, and when it gets renamed, it'll be redirected. So the URL will never go away. People will still be able to find it. My website is slowly being updated, so I just ask people be gentle and just take a look around at what you have, what is there for you. But I'm most active on Facebook than anywhere else. So I have a Facebook business page, and it's the same thing. It's Refocus On Being. Anyone can also look me up by my name, which is Amanda Lopes Bregoli, and I'll spell it because it's not easy. It's Lopes. There's a hyphen, and then it's Bregoli, Bregoli. And I am going to be starting up an Instagram presence, but I'm not really there yet. So Facebook is really the best place to see me and to hear me, as well as my newsletter, which if you go to my website, there's actually a bar up at the top where you can sign up for the newsletter too. So that's where I put out my first offers to my audience. That's where people will hear me ranting and raving. That's where they'll hear me talking about what's going on in the industry and just making people aware of everything that's going on. And then for the workshop, that in order to get free priority access to that, just send me an email, which is amanda@refocusonbeing.com, and you'll get priority access to that.
Wonderful. We'll make sure that we have all of those links as well, so people can just click, because I know people love just being able to click a button and put directly there. So,
yes.
So just before we go, what is the biggest or one of the pieces of advice that you would give a business owner? I would say the majority of my listeners probably have been in business for at least 5 years, we find the majority of them. So what is one of the pieces of advice that you have found very valuable being a business owner that you can share with our audience?
Definitely what all of my clients hear me say at least a few times a week, which is just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. And that is my invitation to business owners to take a look at what they're doing and to say, do I need to actually be doing all of this? And how can I free my schedule up? How can I get my freedom of time back? Just because you can do it doesn't mean that you should be doing it.
I love that. And it's so true. And it took me a lot of years to be able to learn that, but it is very freeing.
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you so much, Amanda, for coming on the show and sharing all of your knowledge. I'm excited. I'm going to head over to the website and sign up for the newsletter myself. And we'll make sure we have all of the links so people can find you and connect with you.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed being here.
If this conversation spurred your mind to go off thinking, how can I use her to better my life? Then I encourage you to email Amanda at refocusonbeing.com. We will have all of the links on our website at foxtalksbusiness.ca, and just click on the blogs. You'll be able to quick connect everywhere. And Amanda has been so generous to offer all of you listeners an invitation to get access to her recorded workshop, How to Break Down the Big Picture Without Having a Breakdown. It's a really great workshop. You can do it on your own time, which these days is something that people really need to do. So I encourage you to reach out and see if this workshop is something that might help you to take your business to the next level. And no matter what you're doing, whether you're trying to figure a way to expand or whether you're trying to just stay right where you are, happy and content, remember to always look for something in the day to have fun. Because if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?